gets his retribution, his revenge. He is your Street Fighter 6 EVO Champion.
I don't know, I just feel like the way I was raised, I feel like there were some things that I was meant to do.
He finally did it. You can say anything you want about this kid. He is an EVO champion and you can never take that away from him.
I wanted to help my family, and I knew I was going to hit the jackpot. I would never recommend anyone going that route. This is not something I've ever told anyone.
Punk has been a dominant force in the world of fighting games for years, but in no domain is he more feared than that of competitive Street Fighter. He made history in 2024 by becoming the first American player to win a main stage Street Fighter EVO title in over a decade. But before the EVO win, before the countless accolades, and before being the #1 ranked player in the world twice, Punk was just Victor Woodley, playing fighting games for fun with his older brothers and hanging out at Xbox Live chat parties and playing with soon-to-be staples of the USA Street Fighter competitive scene. With the release of Street Fighter V, Punk knew he was prepared to take on the world. The world, on the other hand, was not ready for Punk.
Back then in Street Fighter V, like, I honestly knew I was the best player in that. Every tournament I was going to go to, I felt like I was going to win them.
2017 marked the beginning of one of the most dominant eras in the history of competitive Street Fighter. Punk, seemingly out of nowhere, was toppling the idols of the scene and winning back-to-back major tournaments. Leading up to and throughout EVO 2017, he seemed near unstoppable, going almost undefeated all the way to the winner's side of Grand Finals. However, his opponent, the legendary Tokido, made Punk look human once more, taking the title and preventing Punk from winning EVO in his first attempt at bat.
He's so genius, the taunt! He did a taunt combo to Punk in Grand Finals of EVO?
Punk would go on to be the definition of consistency in competitive Street Fighter, ending the 2017 and 2019 seasons as the #1 ranked player in the world, head and shoulders above the field in terms of CPT points. However, after a second-place finish at the Capcom Cup Finals in 2019, the central narrative around Punk had formed. Could the most consistent player in the world get the job done and secure an EVO or Capcom Cup title? Heading into the Street Fighter 6 era, Punk proved again that his skill in fighting games was not tied to any specific title, patch, or iteration, with near unparalleled consistency across all major offline showings, but fell just shy of securing any Grand Slam titles. This was set to change at EVO 2024, with Street Fighter 6's second showing. Punk breezed through winners, and in a parallel to his 2017 run, defeated Tokido to secure his top 8 winner's side appearance. Continuing his momentum into the finals day, he found himself on the winner's side of Grand Finals of EVO once again, 7 years later after his initial showing. And just like that same day 7 years ago, Punk, after being seemingly unstoppable all weekend, lost the first set 3-0. But this time, the story would end differently. In this episode of Trash Talk, Punk discusses his origins in fighting games, his rise to the top of the world of competitive Street Fighter, and securing the EVO win that had eluded him for so long. Please enjoy. Punk the God, EVO Champion. How's it going, man?
Hey, how you doing, Brian? I'm good.
Is that weird for me to say, EVO Champion? Have you gotten used to that title being official at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. I've heard it quite a few times, so I'm pretty used to it now.
Okay, I didn't know if it would take a while to actually settle in that something that seemed maybe far off for a time is actually a reality. But it's good to hear that you've become accustomed to that new title, because you've actually been in the game for quite some time. Even though I think you're still, in my mind at least, a very young player, you've actually been playing fighting games at a incredibly high level for many, many, many years. Can you talk a little bit about how you actually got started? Because it seemed like to most people, 2017, boom, suddenly Punk the God is just everywhere. But I think you got started a lot earlier than that, right?
Yeah, honestly, I've been playing fighting games my whole life, actually. Like, even before Street Fighter 4, I played fighting games with my brother since I was like 4 years old. We used to play Tekken all the time back in the day, Tekken Tag Tournament 1. We always used to play that. So I always just kind of played fighting games. I don't really know why. I guess because my brothers played them. So I just naturally played them with them. And we always played Mortal Kombat also. Like every time a new Mortal Kombat game would come out, we would always play, kind of like how the casual audience is, how they all loved Tekken and Mortal Kombat. We were those people who played Tekken and Mortal Kombat all the time. But then like Street Fighter 4 came out, and me and my brother saw the ad, like the commercial online, and it really made us want to try it out. We never played Street Fighter before that. That was our first time ever playing Street Fighter. But the commercial just was so cool. I remember Abel's like his Ultra, and I was like, dang, that's like one of the coolest things I've ever seen when I watched that. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got started in playing fighting games. It's really just because of my brothers. We just played it growing up all the time.
You said brothers. You have multiple brothers? You have...
Yeah, I have two brothers that I played with.
Okay. Are they older?
Yes, because I'm the youngest in general of all the kids.
Okay. Interesting. So that's interesting to hear how you got started so young. You played some Tekken 3 then, right? That was the best one?
No, I only played Tag 1. Like
Tag 1.
Tekken Tag Tournament 1, and then the next Tekken I played was like 6 after that one.
Okay. I'm dating myself then. Tekken 3 is, I guess, too OG for you. But it's interesting you brought that up, because I think a lot of people do know that you're not just a Street Fighter player. But there might be some people who have seen, like, your recent success with the Evo victory and might not know that you're actually like ridiculous at a million games. I compiled some stats here. You have first place notable finishes and at least DNF Duel and Guilty Gear Strive. You have major second place finishes in BB Tag Cross Battle, Injustice, Melty Blood Type Lumina, MK1 and MVCI. And you have other notable placements in games like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and DBFZ, which is that's more fighting games than I've ever even played. And you're placing and or winning tournaments for them. Would you say that this affinity for all these different titles across the entire genre, this stems from that early experience you had with fighting games, or is that something more that you focused on to grow your expertise later on?
For me, honestly, it's just like I always grew up playing a lot of games. Like I just love video games, and back in the day I used to play like Call of Duties or Uncharted or whatever like new cool game was coming out back in the day. But now I just like to wait for new cool fighting games to come out and try to see if I can kind of have some success in it, like how I do in Street Fighter. So I just honestly just love playing fighting games. I think they're very cool, and it's very fun to see different communities and to play against different communities, because honestly I feel like even playing other fighting games, I learned a lot that you can bring back to other fighting games, and become a better player through playing other fighting games and bringing all of it back to your main one.
Yeah, I need to branch out a little bit more. I've been inspired by how strong you are at so many games so quick, and I've always been in the Street Fighter lane, so I've definitely noticed that over the years. I'm like, maybe there's something to that, to at least branch out your horizons a little bit to get more well-rounded. For yourself, in terms of finding the community, I know a little bit about your story, how in the Street Fighter 4 era, you started actually connecting with a lot of people who would eventually go on to become sort of household names in the FGC. You would talk about how you used to be in all the Xbox Live parties, hanging out with everybody, playing games. So can you talk a little bit about that, how you actually started getting connected with people who were more in the competitive FGC while you were still, what I'm assuming at this time, mostly just playing at home, playing online, and playing fighting games in a more casual manner?
Yeah, pretty much like during the Xbox days, I started meeting like everyone, like Sean, Smug. Just playing online, we would just meet. And the reason I only really wanted to get better at Street Fighter, like I was okay-ish, not really. I think I was pretty bad, honestly. But then I met one friend that many people don't know, or no one really knows. His name is Deltron 2020. That guy helped me so much in my career that people don't know. Like he really taught me how to play Street Fighter the correct way. Like I was kind of a scrub until I met him. I just like to jump and just play like a bum. And then I met him, and his anti-airs were so perfect that I literally had to learn how to play the game correctly if I wanted to even win a match. So, I owe him a lot, because he really did help me become better, and he pushed me a lot back then to help me become the player I am today. And also Smug is a guy that he didn't technically help me, but he made me so mad all the time when we used to play back in the day, because I could never get over 2 wins on him in the first of 10. It would always be like 10-1, 10-2, 10-0. Never got over 2 wins. So I always just said that, one day I wanted to just be able to beat Smug, like he really pushed me to just want to be better, because I've never had a problem of beating someone, and it just really opened my eyes that I wasn't really as good as I thought I was. So when I met him, like everything all changed, and I was like, bro, I'm gonna beat this dude one day. I know I'm gonna beat him, bro. He's not gonna beat me like this forever. It helped me a lot being able to meet like all of them back then, because I wasn't as good as I thought I was playing ranked match for sure.
Right. I think that was an interesting part of the Street Fighter 4 era and like the pre-CPT era. It was a lot easier to kind of be in your bubble and like think you're hot shit. Whereas I feel like soon after the next generation, like any ego you had, it had to be backed up with CPT results. Like you kind of destroyed that.
Yeah.
So it was a funny era to see that. But you were also very young at this time, right? Like you're still in high school, I'm assuming, around this era.
Yeah, I was about 13, 14 growing up, pretty much playing Street Fighter 4. So yeah, I was very young. I think when 5 came out is when I turned 17. I was 17 or 18 when 5 came out. So that's when I started growing up more and more. But Street Fighter 4, I was very young.
And is that when you actually learned about like the tournament scene? Because you're starting to connect with players who have more experience with offline locals, and they're kind of known. Like, I mean, Smug in Street Fighter 4, he's known worldwide in the community, especially towards the tail end of Street Fighter 4. So I'm assuming at this point you started to get exposed to the world of the FGC, right? Was that your first experience playing with these guys, or did you know about it beforehand?
I didn't know about it for a few years, maybe like 2 or 3 years playing Street Fighter 4, maybe until I think it was the Evo, that Fudo one. That was like the first time I ever seen a tournament or knew about a tournament. I think that's 2011 or 2010.
Yeah, 2011.
So yeah, so that's the first time I ever seen a tournament or even knew about it. And then after that, after I saw Evo and I saw Fudo and the Punko and Daigo thing, when I saw Punko like chug the Red Bull and he threw it, I was like, okay, this is sick. That's when I just really started watching more and more tournaments, and I started learning about all the players. And you know, before then I didn't know anything. I just played online and ranked. And I thought that I was nice back then. You know, I didn't even play Xbox then. I played on PS3, so it was really bad before then.
Yeah, that's actually bad. It's funny for people who might not know how that operated. Like back in the Street Fighter 4 days, depending on which platform you're on, was a completely different like pool of players. So 360 was like where the best players were, because that was like the best performing platform and also became tournament standard. I never played PS3, but I remember playing on PC. And PC, if you wanted to like boost your ego, you go on PC, because like they were just so much worse. Like 360 was so hard. Like if you want to get your like 5K player points, you got Shine and Smug gatekeeping you. PC, there's nobody. It was like, oh, so thank God I can get some easy points. So that's funny to hear how like you were kind of in your bubble, slowly getting exposed to the rest of the community, because from what I've seen from the outside looking in, it seemed like 2016 was the first time you had a offline tournament where the FGC kind of had eyes on you. That was Summer Jam 10. Before that tournament, was there any other offline experience that you had leading up to that? Because that was Street Fighter 5 Season 1. Did you ever actually make your way out to any major events or locals before then?
I went to my local all the time, but I went to 2 tournaments in Street Fighter 4. I just didn't do very well. I went to a Summer Jam and I think a Winter Brawl in Street Fighter 4. And in Street Fighter 5, I went to like the locals. That's when I started going to locals in Philly back then. And you know, it's a very funny story how I actually started going to the to locals in Philadelphia.
Hey there, we'll get right back to how Punk got his start in his Philly locals, but I wanted to take a second to thank you, the audience. You guys have decided to spend your most precious resource, your time, on tuning into Trash Talk. We have raised our quality standards to ensure that when you click on that video or podcast link, we don't take that opportunity for granted. In light of this, you may have noticed how we have slowed down our output to give each episode the time it deserves to really get it right. For those who want to support us in this new direction, we have started up the Brian F. Patreon page. This will be a third place for content to live, stuff that doesn't really fit the YouTube algorithmically driven meta and the ephemeral nature of Twitter posts. There is free content live on Patreon right now, like bite-sized gameplay and level-less tutorials, and behind-the-scenes breakdowns of popular thumbnails and videos we've produced. And we will be continuously providing more free content going forward. And for the super fans of Trash Talk out there, we have the paid membership tiers with the complete uncut interviews with top FGC players and figureheads for those who want the more rough, unfiltered experience. To be clear, we are 100% committed to providing the best possible Trash Talk episodes to you for free on YouTube, Spotify, and all podcasting platforms. For those of you that want to hear the moments that didn't quite make the cut, like when Punk used to troll me back on Xbox Live in the Street Fighter 4 days, go ahead and check out the Patreon linked in the description. Thank you guys so much, and now back to Punk.
I was on a Facebook group chat one day. I didn't know that there was actually locals in Philly. I just never actually paid attention that was a thing. I thought we didn't have a scene at all. But then I found out we had a Facebook group chat, and everyone used to always just talk in there. And one day I just went in there and I just told everyone, I was like, I'm going to come to the local today and I'm going to destroy all of y'all because I think y'all all trash. So when I go, I don't know why I just saw it. I was like, bro, there's no way any of these guys are good. So I just wrote that in the group chat, and then I showed up to the local and I just murdered everyone. So they just, they started they was like, wow, who is this? Like, this guy just a random dude and he just came here and beat everyone. And I was like, bruh, I told y'all that I was going to do this. Like, y'all didn't know. And so they started to learn about me more and more in Philly. And then that's when I kind of just started going to more of the locals, like the Red Bull, I think Conquest. I don't remember which ones it was at the time. It was one of those, like the first one they ran for Street Fighter 5, and then that's when I started, or I think I qualified for the Red Bull finals, like whatever the NA finals was that year, I think 2016. And then that's when, or I guess Summer Jam, you're right, like Summer Jam, I think I got around top 16ish that year for Summer Jam. But I don't know, I don't really feel like it was that good. Like, I mean, maybe people saw it, but I don't know. I feel like a top 16 at Summer Jam, it wasn't putting me on the map, really.
I still think that was very good for your first tournament of that caliber, at least for Street Fighter 5. I think that's an impressive result, but it wasn't, cueing us in for what was to come, right? Because very shortly after that, in the tail end of the 2016 season, you have the NA regional finals, and at this time, I still think people weren't aware too much unless they're very tuned into the CPT season, because I believe you qualified for that primarily through online tournaments. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So at this time, the tour was still kind of figuring out how to structure things. So the online portion of the tour was still kind of an unknown area to a lot of people. They had that in Street Fighter 4 as well, and people didn't pay attention to it as much. So it was, to me, also a surprise a little bit. I was like, oh, Punk qualified. Like, I remember seeing him in there at Summer Jam. But out of the gate, your first opponent in this bracket for NA Regional Finals was F-Champ. And they had an interview with the players beforehand, and I believe you had an interview saying like, "Oh, F-Champ, he thinks he's good, but I'm gonna spank him and show him who's daddy." I think if I remember correctly, this is the quote. And you're like 17 at this time. F-Champ's a grown man. Do you remember this build up to this match?
Yeah, I remember F-Champ said something to me. Like, I think he was calling me his son or something. Like, it pissed me off. Like, he said something like that, because I think he beat me in the online tournament or something. And he said, so I think he was calling me his son. And I was like, okay, bro, I see what this is. And it pissed me off. So I had to let him know that what he thought was going to happen, I knew wasn't going to happen again, So I had to let him know I was going to spank him, and I did spank him.
I actually played him in grand finals. The match in general is very hard for Dalsum, so I was surprised that I was able to show him who's really the daddy and who's the son. Hopefully this time around I can still spank him like my little kid.
I don't really let people get inside my head. I just normally play my game and don't try to think too much about how the opponent is trying to make me do stuff. He definitely should look out and shouldn't get too confident. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, you ended up winning that 3-2, and then this is like the run that really started putting you on the map, I think, because you beat F-Champ 3-2, you beat Chris T 3-0, then you beat Justin Wong 3-0. That was like solidified, like, oh, there's something here, because that was the mirror match, the Karen mirror match at the time. Justin is, today he might be more content creator than competitor, but he was still kind of in his peak right then. Or at least really putting up strong results in early Street Fighter 5. Yeah. So that was like super shocking. Like, whoa, 3-0 over Justin Wong. Did you expect that kind of results? Like, or are you surprising yourself at this time? Because I feel like these are your best results so far.
Not really. Honestly, I already kind of knew. Like, going into the tournament, I knew the only person that really was probably going to beat me was Knuckle or Tokido. Like, and those are the two people that end up beating me. F Champ, I knew had a chance because Dawson Karen has just always been like a little bit hard in Street Fighter 5. But everyone else there, I felt like I had a clear like advantage over. Like, I didn't really feel like they had a big chance to beat me. I feel like I knew how to play the game at a very different way that no one else really knew about. No one really knew how to hit confirm back then, and I was already hit confirming low forward, and people thought that that was like some luck thing back then. And I just kind of knew I had a different knowledge of the game back then than everyone else. So I was pretty confident going into that tournament that I could probably win or I'd get very far in it.
Right. Yeah, and that was really highlighted with the Justin Wong match because, like you said, yeah, you started inventing or you put on the map that style of hit confirm gameplay with Karen. Justin Wong, great footsies, great neutral, great awareness, but he wasn't doing walk up, low forward, hit confirm, like, oh, were you standing or not, into a combo, into knockdown, into Oki, right? That wasn't really a thing. And you mentioned it perfectly. People thought it was a luck-based thing. And I think until like you started winning back-to-back premieres, it wasn't until then where people were like, oh yeah, this is like really for real. Like you are actually hitting low forward and every single time hit confirming it into a combo. And so that confidence you had, was that just from your analysis of how people were playing, or did you already have some gameplay experience versus these players aside from F Champ?
Not really. I just kind of like when I watched people play back then and then I played the game, I just kind of saw that they weren't as good as me, honestly. Like back then in Street Fighter 5, like I honestly knew I was the best player in that. Every tournament I was going to go to, I felt like I was going to win them at that time. I don't think it was cockiness or anything. I just felt like no one really knew how to play the game at all then. And I feel like I invented like the meta for multiple years in Street Fighter 5 pretty much, so for a whole year until like Tokido started coming out at Evo, like I pretty much feel like the game was revolved around me at that time. Like I invented how to play and no one else really knew how to play yet. They were still trying to catch up to me. So I knew I had a clear advantage back then playing Street Fighter 5.
And it showed because after this performance, you ended up getting third at NA Regional Finals. And like you mentioned, you lost to Tokido 3-2 and then Knuckle 3-0. And then Knuckle went on to win that. And then, Capcom Cup itself. So he was in like prime form right then. 2017 season comes up. And this is where like the world comes to know like, okay, Punk is ahead of the game. Because in the first half of the season, you end up winning NCR, you win DreamHack, you win E-League, and then you get second at CEO, but it seemed like every single event you're at, it's just domination, right? Like, including, I think there was the ranking event, West Coast Warzone. You drop to losers and pools to no respect, and then you end up winning like 13 sets straight in order to win the whole tournament. You kind of seem inhuman at this time. So, like, what was that experience like? You mentioned just before how you knew going into it, you would be like the winner. Like you understood that you understood more than everyone else. So was that still like a strange experience to be catapulted to like this echelon so quickly at such a young age? What was that like?
It's weird. I don't know. I just feel like the way I was raised, like I feel like there was something in my life always that I was meant to do. I was going to be good at something. I don't know really what it was, but I wanted to really be able to help my family. And I knew something in my life was I was going to hit the jackpot. I just didn't really know it was going to be fighting games because I just really played for fun growing up. I didn't really know that it would ever be a career. And, even when Street Fighter 4 was going on and I was watching, it still wasn't really like a career for like maybe like 2, maybe like 5 players total back then could really make a career out of a fighting game. Now you have a lot more now. So you would never really think that it's something that you can realistically do and be able to do for so long. But I feel like I just came in at a good time and was just very lucky to be able to do it, honestly.
Can you speak on that with the career aspect about this? Because you were 17 years old, I believe, or maybe just about to turn 18 during this season. And I believe you start getting sponsored by Panda Global at this time. Are you like in school at all? Are you starting to focus on this as a career? Can you talk about like when did this start becoming a reality for you? Like, oh wait, like maybe I can focus on fighting games right now and actually start earning an income and help providing for myself and my family, and those gears that were turning in your head at that time?
This is not something I've ever told anyone. So, you get the like actual first time to know this. Or some people know, but never like publicly. But I actually end up dropping out of school so I could play. Like, I was in my last year of high school. I was about to finish. Like, I was actually finished. I had my cap and gown, but I started traveling, and I told my mom that I was like, I don't think I could go to school anymore. And she understood that I had to do something else. So I pretty much got sponsored by Panda Global, and then I just dropped out of high school the last year. And, I feel like everything has worked out. But, I would never tell anyone to drop out of school to play fighting games. So, kid, if you're listening, if you watch this, please do not think that is the smartest way to go. I'm just so lucky to be able to do this and be good enough to make a career out of it. So I would never recommend anyone going that route.
Right. Well, no, that's amazing to hear. I mean, that's a common theme, though, I've heard across, all the major successful players that I've talked to so far about this who've taken that leap. It's like, I took this huge risk. It worked out for me. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody else, but there's something to that where, you found talents or you not even just found talent. You were in a position to practice this for years. You put in your 10,000 hours from a super young age, right? Like, it's not like you just overnight you're good at Street Fighter. You've been practicing since you were 4 years old. An opportunity came up and you were already starting to make, I'm assuming, some sort of income that was like influencing your life, right? It was something that was actually having a positive impact on your economic situation. And at this time, also 2017, this is the esports boon. This is like, there's money being thrown around. Capcom Cup is 250K. Sponsors, there's venture capitalist funds for all the sponsors left and right. So I can imagine that being like a really enticing opportunity for someone in your position. And I'm assuming also, like, at the time, Panda Global, that was a salaried position, if I'm correct in assuming that?
Yes.
Okay. So that's good. You had some kind of financial security I'm assuming, locked in for a year to go for this. Wow. That's a pretty scary leap. Did you have any second thoughts about it? Or were you just like full steam ahead? This is what I'm going to do. I don't even care what happens. Did you think about it?
No, not really, honestly. I just felt like, it was my time. Like, I knew at least, like, for a while, I would win some tournaments, and then, maybe that'll catapult into something else, like a bigger sponsor, some more money from a sponsor, something like that. And, I feel like it was a good bet. It worked off very well for me. And, I feel like I'm just very lucky. The time that I came into the FGC was probably the best year to come in for the FGC. Like you said, it was just so much money, sponsors coming in for so many different teams, like big teams joining the FGC. So, it was just a great time for fighting games those years. Like, that's when fighting game, I feel like, really started to take off to a different type of level. And, more people started watching them and had more eyes on us, and everything just started getting bigger and bigger.
Right. Yeah, it really was. A lot of that venture capitalist money is kind of dried up now. So we've all had to find ways to make it a bit more sustainable, but there was a lot of money being thrown around at the time. So it seems like so many factors came together for you, just like the right age, right time, right skill set. You were ahead of the curve with the meta and the economics of it all working out, just kind of made this perfect recipe. Because 2017, I mean, this is when the world got to know Punk. And some stats from that: you were the #1 ranked player at the end of the season with 3,080 CPT points. Second place was Tokido with 2,125, and then third place was Knuckledew with 1,870. You had 45% more CPT points than Tokido and 65% more CPT points than Do, and just an absurd number of titles during this season. So I would say you made the right call with your bet. It kind of worked out. And but the other thing about this time is that we're learning about not just your skill, but like your personality, right? Like NCR, that's where we got the famous, the thinking meme that was from that run. You're teabagging people left, right, and center. Like, not only are you clearly better than everyone in the world and understand the meta better, like, and you know it too. And it's not just from your words, it's from your gameplay, your actions. Like, you're kind of disrespectful your gameplay on top of it. There's a lot of these moments coming together, like, to establish Punk as, like, the cocky but can back it up persona with the skill to boot. So how did you feel about all that attention and that persona you were putting out there, that side of you were sharing? Do you look back at that fondly, or like how do you feel about that era leading up to that first Evo in 2017?
Honestly, the attention I didn't really care about. I just was having fun. Like, is whatever I thought was fun at the time, and it made me laugh and was entertaining. That's what I just did. I didn't really care about what people thought. So I still don't really care about how people view me or see me. But, back then I really didn't care what people thought about me. I was just having fun. I was very young, and, I was able to do something crazy. I feel like at that time, winning so many tournaments, and, I just wanted to have fun back then. And all of those things was just a result of me having fun. Even I didn't really care about disrespecting someone. You mainly, like, I feel like I didn't really disrespect people talking, but in the game I used to teabag people a lot. But I just thought it was fun back then. It was it was cool to me, so back then I like to do that. I don't think I regret it or anything like that. I feel like it made me, those things make you into who you are. There's no need to regret it. It's nothing to really look back on and be upset at. It's just something you can just look at and be like, you learn from. You don't really want to do those things anymore. So, you grow up and you grow past those things. But at the moment, it was a very fun time for me, I feel like.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a different perspective now because I think you've been dominant or like so good for so long. It's a lot different than like you showing up out of nowhere and just beating everybody. It almost felt like our gods were falling. It was a weird time because for so long, especially throughout the Street Fighter 4 era, there were so many established top level players, and then you come along and you make everybody look bad. And it's like, wow, did we suck for all these years? Like, what is happening here? Maybe some people at the time were like, wow, he's a bit too cocky or this, but no matter what, people watched, right? I think that's something, there's something to be said for that. People cared. People were tuning in to see if you could beat somebody or to see if someone can finally beat you. If you're on either side of it, it made an entertaining recipe, and it made for a great build up to, of course, Evo 2017, right? So at this point, I mentioned you won back-to-back premieres with NCR and DreamHack Austin. You won E-League, which was the biggest prize pool outside of Capcom Cup at that time, $150,000 for that tournament, and then second at CEO. So heading into Evo, did you have any expectations for yourself, or how were you feeling going into that event?
Going into Evo, honestly, just didn't really have expectations. I knew I'd do really good. I thought I could go there and win, of course, but I didn't really think that was a realistic thing because it's Evo. Like, everyone, I've been watching it for years. Like, I didn't really know how I would feel going there. Didn't know if I'd be nervous, how I'd react to so many people watching. I didn't really know. So going in, I just told myself I just do as good as I can do. But surprisingly, when I played at Evo, I didn't have any nerves at all going to my first Evo. I just played and I felt good the whole time I was playing. Like, I don't know, it felt like crazy. I felt just so locked in every match I played. I felt like I was just extremely locked in, and it was just it was crazy, honestly. Even though I did not end up winning, it was a very crazy Evo for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's like major storylines coming out of that because the Saturday before the finals, you end up putting Tokido into losers in an amazing match there. And that was like, I believe, the most challenging match you had up until that point in the bracket. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I remember, that was like a 2-1 victory. And
until the grand finals, I didn't lose anyone. I 2-0'd everybody.
2-0'd everybody.
3-0'd everyone. Yeah, until grand finals. That was the first match I lost in the tournament.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I misremembered the Tokido set in top 16 then. Right, because in top 8, you 3-0'd Itabashi with Nash.
Yeah.
People might not remember it, but you played Nash for certain matchups at that time, and you've also played every other character in the game, but it wasn't just Karen. You 3-0'd Kazunoko, and then grand finals was Tokido, and so you finally lose a match. Is this when the reality of the situation sets in? Because, yeah, like you mentioned, you looked unstoppable leading up till this point. Not even this tournament, but the whole season. right? So how did that feel?
Honestly, when me and Tokido played in winners, I thought I would lose because we practiced with him a lot before Evo. We all went to Justin Wong's house. Tokido also, he came to Justin Wong's house for a few days. We all practiced, and Tokido watched all of us bad every set we played. Every time, everyone was just getting destroyed. We didn't know what to do against Akuma. He was hitting us with some crazy raging demons. We didn't know anything about that stuff. Everyone at the time, we all thought Akuma was pretty bad. Tokido was doing really bad at that time. CEO, he had a really bad performance. And then I think another tournament after that, before Evo, he did bad at. And everyone up until that point, we just thought Akuma wasn't a very good character. But at the house, at Justin's house, Tokido showed all of us he murdered us bad. So when I actually played them in the to qualify to top 8 in winner's side, I really didn't actually think I was going to win there. And the fact that I 2-0'd them, I was like, wow, I really might win Evo, because that was the only person going there that I felt like if we played that, it was no chance. I was really hoping everyone could beat him for me before he came. But during the top 8, I saw him beating people that he never beat before, and I was like, well, I started to realize, I'm like, well, I feel like it's coming to an end. Tokido back then, he never beat any Kami players, and then he just murdered Kazunoko. He never beat Nakudu up until that point, and then he murders him, and then F-Champ throws a set away that was pretty much guaranteed for him to win against Tokido. He threw it away with the dumbest view reversal ever. And I was like, bruh, this dude is just, there's no way that there's no way it's coming to an end for me. So, being able to get to grand finals, I was very happy. But knowing Tokido was coming back, I knew that it was going to be a hard one if I could even win.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in that set, Tokido, he also had his showmanship going on. He hits the taunt combo. The reset happens, and then from the outside looking in, it's like, you had been so dominant for that whole season, but it was almost easy to forget how young you were at this time, and the fact that you're going up against Tokido, who was such a seasoned veteran, had been in this position multiple times, so many titles under his belt across so many seasons. I feel like there was that kind of became like apparent again. It's like, oh wait, Punk's human. Punk's like a young player going through, like, achieving the highest goal you could in the first real year of your fighting game career, getting that close, getting to grand finals winner side, and then the person you put into losers coming back and resetting it, and taking in the reset bracket in a pretty dominant fashion. After that concluded, I think that's when you showed your emotion, right? Like, there's the images of you tearing up on stage, trying to grapple with the situation. Can you talk a little bit about how that felt? Because it sounds like going into it, you didn't have that much expectation, but by the end of it, it feels like the moment was still heavy. So what was going through your mind at that time?
Getting the grand finals at Evo was just crazy feeling. Being able to play in grand finals at my first Evo ever, and I was 18. I think I just turned 18 around then. It was honestly just crazy. It was very emotional, because when you get to grand finals and you feel like it's your time, you're gonna win, and it's something I just been watching for so many years. I always said one day I want to go there. I never knew if I'd be able to win, but I just wanted to at least be able to go to Evo and try to play pretty much. Back then I didn't really think that I'd be able to do the things I was able to do then, but it's just very emotional. Just being able to actually do something you've seen for so many years. You've seen so many people that you watch grow up and play win, that you actually like, as a players, and you think they're very cool. It just was a crazy feeling being on that stage with someone like Tokido. And, even win or lose, I feel like I would have had the same reaction no matter what had happened then. So, it's not even really just the fact that I lost Evo that I cried. It's just the fact that I was able to make it so far and actually get there on my first ever Evo. I didn't really know what to think of something like that, and I just let it out with some tears.
Right. No, I mean, that's a crazy thing to have culminate so quickly as well, right? It's like it's so slow and then all at once, right? It's so many years of enjoying fighting games, watching from afar, then suddenly you're there, in that moment. So that's a lot to take in for anybody, especially someone so young and achieving so much so quickly. Can you talk a little bit about Capcom Cup 2017? Because it felt like 2017, even though you lost Evo second place, you were still the favorite in a lot of ways, except for the fact that the format had the LCQ winner go up against the first seed. So you end up going up against Nemo round one. How did that feel? was that a fun experience?
Not really. I hated it then. I was tweeting about it back then that I thought that was a very dumb format. Like, I was the guinea pig for where the LCQ should go, but I never thought the LCQ should go to the person who performed the best during the season. Why can I not prepare for my opponent? And of course, it's going to be someone as good. Like, no one who's won the LCQ is going to be like some mid-level subpar player. Is always going to be some crazy player that maybe one didn't travel during the year or came really close to qualifying and just didn't make it. But in Nemo's case, he just didn't travel the whole year. So he ended up going there and winning. And back then, I feel like Nemo is a person who really wanted to beat me. You know, he challenged me back then to a money match for $1,000. I don't know if many people know. He challenged me to that, and he pretty much said that he challenged me because he wanted to prove that he was the best player. And that was his reasoning for challenging me, and I ended up winning that. So I think, like, Nemo, knowing him and his personality, he's definitely a very, like, cocky-ish type of person. He definitely feels, like, very high of himself. So if he losing to someone, I know that he's thinking, like, this dude is not going to keep beating me. And, you know, at Capcom Cup, I felt like him qualifying was kind of almost guaranteed. Like, when I saw the tournament, I kind of thought it was going to be probably him or Infiltration, one of those two, to qualify that year through the LCQ. And both of them had characters that just, one I didn't like fighting, and one Manat was just like, if we play Infiltration, like, Manat Karen was terrible and no one knew anything about the character. Mm-hmm. And Urian was just another character that just, you didn't really want to play in season 2.
Yeah. Not at all.
Not in a tournament like Capcom Cup. You're not trying to fight Nemo and he doing all these new setups you've never seen before. And it just wasn't very good. But I think I still did pretty well at Capcom Cup. I think I ended up getting ninth. Moke ended up beating me then, and it was, I think I was very mad. Like, the way I lost to Moke, I remember being very mad because he risked doing the dumbest DP ever. I'll never forget that DP he did on me on Wake Up to win. I don't know why he would bet his Capcom Cup life on that. I would never back then think that someone would do something like that. He did it. And I'll never forget that. That was like a very life-changing thing. Or not life-changing, but like experience I needed in Street Fighter, I think. Like, to realize that people are really willing to take some risk, and maybe you can, you know, something you can actually implement in your game. Because back then I did not like doing things like that, and I didn't really think that that would be something smart. And Moke, he opened my eyes to doing things like that, I would say.
I see. Interesting. So at the end of that 2017 season, you're super dominant, but then 2018 starts. Frosty Faustings is one of, like, the regional events that is early in the season, right? Early in the year. And it's an event you've been to a number of times, and you've won a bunch of them. 2018 wasn't one of those. 2018 is the year Abigail really came into his own. Like, he was announced at that Evo 2017, and then slowly people started to understand him a bit more. And I believe Frosty Faustings that year was on the Season 3 patch, if I remember correctly. And you end up getting fourth that tournament and dropping a set to Cool Kid Abigail. I feel like that kind of set the tone a little bit for a lot of the season for you. Did you have, I don't know if you even remember that tournament at all. Did you think anything about that tournament at the time?
When I saw the character, I saw Abigail, and I fought a few of them in ranked. I already knew that the character was like one of the goofiest characters ever. Like, that was already, so I knew going into the season that even if he don't get nerfed, then, you know, I'm not going to be so good this season, or I got to switch characters. Like, I just don't know what Capcom was thinking when they dropped him. It was a very, very dumb time. But I remember playing Cool Kid, and that's when I really saw, like, how goofy the character actually was going to be for the year after playing Cool Kid there. I was like, okay, this is a problem.
Right. And you know, that led to more problems because NCR that year, you had won the previous year. And like I said, that was super dominant. That's when you had the whole thinking meme and everything. You're teabagging everyone left and right. This year, though, you ended up dropping to losers to Bushin style in pools. And that's a big upset. But it's also not something we haven't seen before. Like, oh, West Coast Warzone Punk. He lost in no respect. He's going to win the whole thing from losers. And you're making a run again through losers like you tend to do the few times you drop to losers early. And you took out Moke in that run. Got your run back from Capcom Cup. Trash Boat, check out a few other strong players, and then of course, leading into one of the most iconic matches from your career on the negative side, you versus Problem X at NCR, right? Can you talk a little bit about that match if you recall the actual gameplay during it?
I just remember, like, I can't remember the whole match, but I only do is remember getting back thrown into the corner when I was about to win the set. Went for a shimmy. He got the back throw, and that's it. That was the whole set, because back then, if Karen didn't have a super versus Abigail and he put her in the corner, he could just unblockable loop her the whole time, since her DP only hit once for the charge move. You couldn't actually stop him. So if once I got back thrown, I knew the round was over. Like, it was nothing I could do. So once I got back thrown, I was like, well, the game is done. Like, that's it. I gotta try to do something and hope he messes up. That's pretty much my only option here. He didn't mess up, and that was all she wrote. It was a bad time. I was so angry.
Right.
I was very angry at that match. So.
Yeah. It led to the iconic imagery of, like, you have your head on the table there, and then Problem X is walking by, and the camera angle is just, it's like cinematic almost. Like, Problem X, you guys are good friends. And so he's looking at you. He's trying to see if should I approach for the handshake or not. Like, there's a moment of like acknowledgments, right? He sees you and he says, I'm gonna let him be, right? Like, he's like, I'm gonna let him grieve in peace right now and walk away, the victor, while you're there, mourning the match essentially. And I feel like that was kind of emblematic of like what would to come that season, because this is your 2018 is actually your worst season. And to put that into perspective, what your worst season is like, you still had 933 CPT points, 23rd global, and you still qualified for Capcom Cup. But that's Punk's worst season, which is still bad, low class.
I got all those points at the end of the season. The whole start, I was low, very low. I think I got maybe 2 or 3 top 8s at the last, like 2 or 3 premieres that year, and that's what really got me into the cup. But it was a struggle playing in that year. Bad time.
Yeah, and you won 2 rankings in the second half of the year, right? Like, it was a few rankings and a few good premier performances that got you back into the cup. In the next season, 2019, you start out at Frosty Faustings with a win, right? First place this time. And then 2019 would go to be arguably more successful than 2017 in a way. 2017, I think the rest of the world was behind. 2019, you actually had more wins. In 2019, you had 6 premier top 2s and 4 wins. You had 4 ranking top 2s with 3 wins. And then you also got like second at the NA regional finals. And it was like, okay, Punk's back. Like, Punk is back in top form. Any premiere he goes to, you can look to him to possibly win or at least be in grand finals. Do you attribute that just to your mental state being more prepared for this time? The nerfs to Abigail? What are you thinking about your success during this year?
Honestly, I didn't really know what to think going into 2019. I knew that I could do well. Like, I always know that every tournament I go to, I have a great chance of winning it. But when I went to final round, and I won final round, because every year did terrible at final round, never had a good placement. So when I actually won final round, I was like, okay, yeah, this year I'm about to cook some people again. I was feeling it after final round. I was like, I'm playing really good, and I feel like everyone already, everyone established the game, so they know how to play and how to fight matchups now. Everyone is they're at the top of their form. So I feel like when I was playing that final round and I won, I was like, okay, this is going to be a good year after that tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, it was. Yeah, final round is the first premiere of the season, right? That's the one that was kicking it off during this era of Street Fighter V. So basically, this whole season, you're winning tournaments, you're doing amazing. You didn't quite get like the Evo top 8, or there's a few maybe opportunities to have other like titles added to your belt, but you're taking so many premieres. Like, it's just an absurd amount of victories under your belt at that time, leading into that Capcom Cup. that Capcom Cup, once again, people are like, this is Punk's year. Like, this is the year Punk's going to take it. He's performed so well over the years. And you start off this run at Capcom Cup really well. Do you have any expectations at this time as well going into this tournament?
From my year and during the year, I thought that going into Capcom Cup I was going to win, especially since, you know, you could see your path in Capcom Cup. So I knew that in my path that I shouldn't really have lost or lose to anyone, you know, at least in like the top half. I knew all those matches were pretty good for me. I should win if I'm playing good those days. I should be able to win all those matches. And so I had very confident in that tournament that I'd go there and win or do at least really good. And
you did. You were, you know, dominant performance up until, I would say, you were most challenged at winners finals. And this is where like two tales kind of converge here, right? Winners finals, you go up against IDOM. And up until this point, a big part of IDOM's story was you gatekeeping him, right? Like, this is just like a cliff note in your years before this for you, but for him, like, IDOM was the stoop kid. You know, he didn't travel. 2017, he gets to the NA regional finals at the very end. You're already qualified to Capcom Cup 5 times over, but you win and you take the qualifying spot from him. You take the trophy. The confetti's raining down and you're holding the trophy, and Adam's there getting the confetti in his afro. You know what I mean? Like, he's there off to the side, like sulking while you're like, yeah, I got it. And then he's not knocked out of Capcom Cup. And there was a few other moments like that where basically you kind of were the roadblock for Idom to getting into Capcom Cup. That and his fear of flying and not getting on a plane. Like, that was the main roadblock. But you were that roadblock. Now, winners finals comes up and you end up taking that set 3-2. But it was kind of close, right? And even though IDOM did have maybe 1 or 2 notable wins over you at this time, it was a consistent pattern of you beating IDOM. Were you surprised at how close that set was, or did you think anything of that winners finals at that moment?
Not really. I mean, he played Poison. Like, I knew the matchup was just pretty lopsided. It was bad for Karen, you know, so if he played Laura, I always believe that I would win. But when he played Poison, you know, I think it still was always in my favor. Like, he won some tournaments, but usually even still with Poison, I always still won. But the matchup, still a bad matchup. So at any point, you might just lose. You never really know. So Capcom Cup just, I think, was happened to be one of those times where he just he won. But, you know, people nowadays say I just choked a lot. I feel like no one ever give anyone credit. They don't give Tokido credit. They don't give Idom credit. You know, those are 2 crazy players. Saying that I only choke against them, and, you know, you pretty much taken away from their win. So, you know, I wish people would stop saying always choke and, you know, give the players some more credit for their W's, because, you know, saying I choked is disrespectful to them, you know, because they played amazing to get those wins.
No, they definitely did. Yeah, but that was still a huge upset to the eyes of many at the time. And I agree with the matchup thing, like, right? Like, IDOM came prepared with a really nasty combo because he didn't even really use Poison that whole tournament until it came down to the match with you, like when it was time to let it go. Can you talk a little bit though about the grand finals though, because I remember you started that with Cammy and you actually go up 2-0 in that first set of grand finals. Was that a pick just for like variety to catch him off guard? Was that for a Poison counter pick? Was it a blind pick? I actually don't know the story behind that pick.
Honestly, look now, maybe we did a blind pick. I don't remember, but it was for Poison. I know that, so it probably was a blind pick, honestly. But I don't actually remember if they asked us for a blind pick or if we did one or not. But it definitely was for Poison. Okay,
right, because you actually go up 2-0 with Cammy before he ends up making the comeback, and then we saw in the reset he goes back to Poison after losing. Were you like when the Poison combo is going on, you know, he has the Molotov on top of you, your life's draining like crazy with that extra damage. What's going through your mind at that time? Are you like, crap, this is gonna kill, it's over? Like, are you embracing for disappointment? Are you trying to see if you can survive and make a comeback? Like, what's mentally going on at that time?
Well, I've already seen that combo plenty of times before. I don't know if that was people's first time seeing it. I already knew I was dead when I got hit by the first button. I already knew it was over. So I was already prepared, like, to me, I don't really care. Like, as much as people think I actually cared, I didn't really care about the 2019 Capcom Cup. And I've always said that, like, back then, the way I saw Capcom Cup was, it was just for money. It was a big money thing. For me, I only really cared about Evo and trying to win Evo every year. And however I did at Capcom Cup then, it was just, I was just going in for the money, hoping that I could win big. But I don't really didn't really see much prestige in Capcom Cup because it was still kind of newish to tournaments in general, while Evo's been around for like 20-ish, 10, 20 years already, So for me, I didn't care as much as people thought I did, and until people made it out that I cared is when I feel like I got more upset about it.
I can see that. Okay, that makes sense, and I very much agree with your assessment. People. I've had this debate with Rob all the time. It's like, oh, would you rather win Evo or Capcom Cup? I always say Evo, even though Evo pays peanuts compared to Capcom Cup, because I don't know, if you grow up with Evo is the tournament. Capcom Cup is slowly building the prestige, but I definitely kind of agree it's a bit more about money. Prestige is there for sure, but Evo is Evo, right? Like that has so much legacy behind it. The following seasons, I mean, the world goes to hell, right? Like COVID happens, everything starts falling apart. We almost had an amazing 2020 CPT season. They promised a lot of a great format. Didn't come to fruition. We're trying to figure out where to pick up the pieces, right? Going into 2021, you're back on the East Coast for a while, and you guys are playing and every possible opportunity. It's online, region locked, East Coast. It's Punk and Idom. What did you think about that kind of juxtaposition and the natural comparisons that were being drawn, right? It created storylines. People talked about this, like the Punk and Idom rivalry. You guys had some of the best gameplay at the time. Is this something you were like aware of, thought about, or were you just focused on the game itself?
No, I honestly did not care about it at first until people just like, for some reason, Idom had the worst fans back then. They were so intolerable. Always coming to my Twitch chat, just randomly saying Idom better than you. And I'm just chilling. I'm like, well, bro, no one in my stream is going to Idom's stream saying that. But for some reason, everyone from his stream, they're coming to my stream and telling me that. And I'm like, bro, I'm just playing the game. Like, I'm not even trying. And then that's when more and more, I feel like over time, you keep seeing that, like you just grow some type of hate it's not really real, it's some fake hate for the person because people are just keep talking about it. It just makes you more and more upset. So like, it's not like I disliked Idom, but I don't know, it just was very annoying always having to see that. And I'm just like, bro, it just pissed me off every time I play Idom. I just felt like I had to win because if I didn't, I'm about to get 70 messages on Twitter. Everyone's coming to my stream the next day, next week saying Idom's better, and it's just so tiring all the time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that. I can understand that being frustrating to deal with firsthand. Selfishly, I love the rivalry because I love the gameplay between you guys. I think it inspired some great moments leading up to 2021 CPT online finals, right? The narrative was really building at this time. You had the grand finals for that Capcom Cup qualifier 2021, and it was one of the best sets of Street Fighter V, period. I don't care if it's online. That's one of my favorite sets of all time between you two, down to the wire between you two. And you end up taking the set, and then there's the big pop-off. I'm the definition of clutch. Like, so much energy behind that, so much gusto with it. And then, then it involves your mom as well. Your mom busts in the room, starts to say, talk your shit, son, and all that. And like, can you talk about the build up to that moment and that pop off and everything going on?
Yeah, bro. It was just a lot of people just kept saying I was going to lose the finals. I wasn't going to win to Idom. Everyone was saying that. So, I just took all of it as, hate. And I was like, okay, if I win this, then they're going to have to hear it. They're going to have to, and, I end up being able to take it. That set was extremely close. I honestly just think Idom threw it away switching to Laura because he had no chance of beating me with Laura. I don't know why he did that. Still to this day, I feel like a very dumb decision. When I felt like it was over, like the poison, I was done. He just stuck it out with poison. I don't think I was going to win the set, but he switched and he gave me hope. And even if you watch my stream, when he switched, I was like, oh, I'm going to win this set. He switched to Laura. I literally say that on the stream. And he switched and he didn't go back to poison. I don't think that. I don't remember if he goes back to Poison for the last game, but he at least gives me one free game with Laura, and I'm like, this is my opportunity. This is the door that he's opening for me right now. And, you know, he gave me the chance, and I was able to capitalize and take it. And, you know, all the people that were talking in my stream or like during the week throughout that course saying Idon was better, everyone had to hear it that day.
They definitely heard it, man. That was a powerful pop off. And like I said, I love that your mom busts in the back and starts like cheering you on a bit. And I'm not exactly sure what she said. She might have went a little hard. You were like, oh, don't say that. And she goes, oh, sorry. Like to calm it down a little bit. That was super awesome to see. So can you talk about her support in that moment?
Yeah, it's very cool to have your family support you. Honestly, my mom, she sees everything. She's watches Twitter and sees like when people throwing hate and stuff to me. So like I feel like she's a little bit more in on the story too. Like and you know, she has the animosity in her because I'm her son. So, you know, she feels like there's some animosity that she even has. So when she saw me beat Idom, she kind of knew probably that was like a big thing. So she came in and she just said something. I don't remember what she said now, but you know, at the end of the day, I didn't want her to go too crazy, so I had to stop her before.
The comedic topic on it was so good because it was like so much energy, and then I don't know what line she almost approached. You're like, "Don't say that." Oh, it was like, my bad. Oh, but it was very heartwarming in a funny way with all the shit talk involved with it. And that's funny you mentioned that. My mom is the same thing on Twitter. Like she, every time I go home for the holidays, she's like, "Who was so and so saying something mean?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it." Yeah, the mamas be watching out here. If you're talking smack on Twitter, the mamas, be careful, man. Hilarious. So during the 2020 era, you're kind of splitting your focus now on competing and doing content creation. We have no Capcom Cups for 2 years, but 2022, it's still the online format. And then we finally had the final Capcom Cup, and as well as some few offline events. How are you feeling in this late stage of Street Fighter V? Because you're still having a lot of success, but it's not the same level of dominance as before, and you're kind of in the growth phase of your content creation. It seems like that's a lot of your focus and where a lot of your time and energy is going into. You do end up qualifying for Capcom Cup, but you don't make it out of the group stages. Like, just can you talk about that final stretch of the Street Fighter V era and where your mindset is? Are you focused on competing heavy, or are you just ready for the future with whatever may come Street Fighter 6?
For then, I honestly was just focused on content creation. You know, I just played the game on like competitively as like a side thing because I still like to compete, but I didn't really feel like I was into it. I never felt really good going to tournaments, like a big event that year. I never really felt like I had confidence to win the tournament. Maybe I could do okay, but I knew that at some point I wasn't going to win because back then so many people still practiced the game and they were so good. But every time I played against some of the really good players then, I felt like I couldn't keep up with them at all. You know, I noticed the difference in our skill level, and I knew that I probably wouldn't do that good at Capcom Cup. But, you know, being able to qualify, like I said before, that's just what we want to do as pro players. But back then, I definitely wanted to grow myself and focus on content a lot more. That was like my focus, and I feel like that was just the best option at that time for me, was to not really think about competing as much because it wasn't many tournaments, you know. So trying to focus to be a competitive player at that moment, I felt like just wasn't the play, you know. Maybe if you won Capcom Cup, then you can make up all that money that you missed during the year in tournaments that didn't exist. But if you don't win, then, you know, you wasted your whole year and you might be broke now, you know. So
yeah, nothing to show for it. Even if you get in, you get I don't know, top 8. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't.
If you paid out of pocket to travel, that's a net loss right there.
Yeah, so I just thought that content was the way to go, and you know, Panda definitely helped me focus and shift my mindset more towards that at that time. So, you know, that really helped me. So I'm very grateful that they were able to like change how I saw things at that time.
Right. So that's interesting to say that, because now we're getting into 2023. Street Fighter V is wrapping up. Street Fighter 6 is on the horizon. You have now this really successful YouTube and Twitch stream. Like you're full steam ahead in content creation. You built your brand in those lanes. are you looking at Street Fighter 6 as an opportunity for growth in content creation primarily, or competing? Because from the outside looking in, I felt that distance from competition from you. It did feel like you were more focused on content creation.
Well, I knew that I was going to do both. Like I felt like I'm pretty good at like being able to practice well while streaming still. So I don't really need to, actually focus 100% to actually, be able to practice and play at a good level.
I'm actually curious. When you first start playing Street Fighter 6 and get your hands on the game, what are your first impressions about the game itself? Like, are you immediately like, oh, this is such a forward-looking game, it's so much better than Street Fighter 5, or are you apprehensive about it? I'm kind of wondering what your like honest first impression was of Street Fighter 6.
My first impression when I was playing the beta, I didn't really think that the game was bad. I had a ton of fun, but like you can even ask maybe like Victor, Angry, I would message them and I would be like, bro, I'm not good at this game. Like, I don't think I can do it. I think I'm going to turn into Sanford Kelly. I would tell him I'm turning into Sanford in this game, and I'm just going to be angry and bitter. I really, like, at playing in the beta, I was like, I really just thought I was not going to be good, bro. I couldn't react to a drive impact to save my life. Anything. I was like, well, this is too hard, bro. Everyone was just beating me up in the beta. I couldn't win. I was going through it. It was bad. And I was just thinking like, well, this game is garbage. I'm not going to like it. I hate drive rush. I hate drive impact. I hate perfect parry. Like, I hated everything. So going into the game, I just was like, bro, this game is horrible. But maybe there's a character that, wasn't in the beta that I like, because I love Ken. He's my favorite character. But playing him in the beta, I thought he was garbage because all his moves were so negative. He definitely was a lot worse in the beta than he was actually when the game came out, because his moves were so negative. I think Stand Heavy Kick was like -7, -8. So it was very, very trash then. And I was like, well, this game probably not going to be for me. And, people don't know Street Fighter 5. I actually did not play the game either because I hated it when it came out. I tried Ken. I didn't like him. Then I tried to play Laura for like a week. I didn't like it. And I stopped playing for maybe like 6-7 months. At the start of the game life, I played for like 1 week, and I didn't play for maybe 6 to 7 months until Sean messaged me one day and he told me I should try out Karen and that I'd like her. And then that's how I started playing Street Fighter 5 again, because before then I was set on never touching Street Fighter again and just doing other things because I really hated the game. And Sean really opened my eyes to playing Karen and actually helped me out a lot.
Okay. That's interesting because, I remember you streaming, I think it was from a hotel when you went to DreamHack Dallas, if that's the tournament that I'm remembering correctly here. It was the weekend Street Fighter 6 released. So I think you traveled for a tournament that weekend, and you were even streaming from a hotel before the tournament was going to happen. It was just like release date tournament offline events. And I remember you looking over the cast and being like, man, I just don't care about any of these characters. Like, you were kind of bemoaning it. Like, there's not a character like you connected with. So it sounds like you need like a character that you really connect with in order to actually enjoy and learn a game. Is that fair in saying?
Yeah, if they're not a character that I play and I just feel like this character is just like there's no care for me, then I just cannot play the game. Because if I'm not having fun, then I really just don't want to play. I don't really care about being good or being a pro. It's all about having fun at the end of the day. I can't be good at a game if I'm not having fun at it. So for me, finding that character that's really going to keep me playing, that's when I know that I can keep playing the game and that I found something that I like. So if I don't have that, then I'm not playing at all. I'm going to leave and do something else.
So did Cammy end up being that character for you? Because for some people, they might call Cammy kind of like a dry character. I don't know, but it seems like that's been your main for all of Street Fighter 6. So when did it finally click with Cammy? Like, that could be the character that you lock in with to learn this game with?
Around when I played her, like at the start, as soon as I played her and I started doing her combos, and she's like my favorite female character in Street Fighter. So her being my favorite female character, I wanted to try her out because I didn't like Ken. So usually they're like the two characters I would try out at the start of a Street Fighter game is Ken and Cammy. And if I don't like either of them, then I'm probably not going to try to play. I feel like in Street Fighter 5, I felt like Cammy was very boring, like extremely boring. So it was no way I could play her in that game. She barely had a combo, and it wasn't as what you know from her in Street Fighter 4. So for me, I couldn't do it then. And in this game, when I saw her combo, I started doing the drive rush combos, the back heavy kick into spiral arrow DP. And I was like, oh, this character's cool in this game. They brought Cammy back to a cool state to how she was in 4. Like, my immediate reaction was she's like how she is in Street Fighter 4 now. You know, her crouch fears was very similar. She had some similar combos to how she had in 4. EX dive kick was a bit back to how it used to be. You can't do it as low to the ground, but they made it a bit lower. And I just felt like the character just felt like something I remembered again and back and forth. So it made me very happy when I tried her out.
Okay, yeah, because it showed that you clicked with her right away, because this first year of Street Fighter 6, you're having some of the most consistent performances we've seen out of you from your best seasons, right? So, like, CEO is the first major. You end up getting third at that event. You get third at Evo. You get third at Gamers 8. Like, it's showing you're kind of like third place here, which is not like a knock, because this is the most stacked the competition has ever been for Street Fighter, right? There's more players than ever. So how are you feeling about the tournament scene at this time, like, in competing? So you got third at that CEO. Were you surprised with your performance? Was it expected? How was that first tournament for you? First big major in this game?
Honestly, it was definitely very surprising, because like I said before, I thought I was going to be really bad at this game. So when I was going into CEO, I was panicking. Honestly, I was like, well, probably not going to do so good. I'm pretty worried that I'm just going to be washed up now, and it might be over. I'm just going to do content. These are things I'm thinking. And then as CEO, I end up getting, when I got top 8, I was like, okay, this is good. And after that, I thought I was done, because playing Kaba, I thought Kaba was going to beat me. Like, I didn't think that I was going to beat Kaba. And I end up clutching that out. Luckily, he did the worst flash kick ever.
Right.
It ends up letting me make a comeback that I thought wasn't going to be possible, because back then I thought Gao was so broken. When the game first came, I didn't know how you could beat the character. I assumed he was just going to be the best in the game from playing the beta and seeing Fireball Drive Rush without knowing like how to perfect parry really or anything, or knowing any of that stuff. You just really see Gao and you think like, oh, this is the best character in the game. And Kaba was the first person that was perfect parry in my spin knuckle. So when he took the spin knuckle away, I was like, oh, we in trouble right now. I was like, he perfect parried the very first one. I was like, oh no, bro, what am I going to do to get into my Gao now? And I was getting destroyed for the whole match until he did that dumb flash kick. And that's when somehow everything just started working out. Every jump hit, every button just hit him, and I was like, oh, okay. I somehow clutched it out.
Right. Now, that was a crazy set, and I think that flash kick, to give Kaba some credit, I remember labbing that after to understand why he did that. I think if you were like a few pixels closer, it would hit both hits, or if you were standing. So there's like two situations. If you were standing, it would have chipped, or if you were slightly closer, it would have done more chip as well.
No,
so
you know what it was? It's actually in the beta, the flash kick did mad chip damage. And that's what he thought it was, the beta, because in the beta it did a lot. So I don't think he actually knew when he came to the Rivalry. I don't think he knew that they actually decreased the chip damage a lot. But in the beta, it did a crazy amount of chip damage. Right. And I think like that's what Kaba said, that he thought it was the same as like how the chip damage was from the beta.
Right. Yeah. If you weren't aware of that context, it did kind of looks like he just like said, "Oh, I don't want to win anymore." He's like, "Oh, it was a good run. Let's throw it real quick, give it over to Punk." But yeah, that was a wild set, and so it sounds like maybe this tournament getting third was like a big confidence boost to you, right? Because like you were unsure about the game mechanics. So going into Evo, did you carry that confidence boost with you, or were you still in that phase of like, I don't know what's going to happen right now?
Evo, I honestly knew that I would get really far in the game, because at that point, again, like at this time, I feel like I was doing something no one else even thought about doing, which was checking drive rushes. Everyone thought drive rush was like the craziest thing and you couldn't check them. And I think going into Evo, I was the only player who actually could check drive rushes. and people were spamming them on me the whole tournament, and I'm just laughing. I'm like, oh yes, this free wins today, baby. Everyone think that, you know, everyone playing their region. It's the first time like international players meet up. So, you know, Asian players in their region, none of them are checking the drive rushes. So when I'm playing them players, they're spamming drive rushes a lot, and I'm just checking them over and over, and I'm like, oh, they're just handing me the wins right now. No one actually realized that, you know, you can actually do this thing in the game. So I feel like I had an advantage for that up until that point, like for that, like at least that part of the game. So I knew I would get really far. I didn't really think I would win Evo because, you know, especially when I saw Mena and Angry Bird, like I knew that those two guys, I knew I really wasn't beating. Then Mena with Blanca was just impossible, and Angry Bird just, I don't know, bro. That dude was just a machine. Like, I played him online one time, and he beat me so bad. I think it was the Evo week, actually. Like, I think they flew out to Evo earlier, the Birds, and they were playing online. I played Angry Bird, and I was like, well, this is a guy you don't want to play at Evo this year.
Right. Well, yeah, he is that dude. I remember that. I think they were streaming from the Las Vegas,
Yes.
the Pyramid Place. I'm forgetting what it's
HyperX
called.
Arena.
Yeah. I
HyperX.
remember that stream. I remember you guys actually playing them, and that confirmed our suspicions of like Angry Bird and Big Bird to a degree, just being like ahead, right? It was just like, oh, they understand this game at a different level, especially Angry Bird with his drive rush jab, which I think comes into play in your set when you guys actually do play. But leading up till that set in winners finals, were you undefeated that whole time?
Yeah, no one beat me. I lost like one round the whole, like leading up to top 8. I lost one round the whole tournament, and that was it.
That is in the potentially largest gaming tournament of all time. I think there were we're not clear on the exact record, but not just fighting game tournament, but just like video game or even like gaming event ever. To be clear, this had over 7,000 entrants in it. So to go that far with not losing a game the entire time is absurd. That's just a crazy record. So I just want to point that out for the viewers. But then you get to winners finals against Angry Bird. He wins 3-2. Was he hitting you with a drive rush jab?
Yeah.
Okay. So finally, someone you couldn't check the drive rush with, right?
Yeah, still to this day, I cannot check Ken's. He's the only one in the game. I just feel like it's something with his drive rush that there's not. It's frame data and like hitboxes and stuff is not showing up, because still to this day, it's like a 10% check rate and 90% hit rate. So it's something going on with that jab and drive rush that Capcom is not showing, bro. I know it. I'm not crazy.
We'll have to have someone dig through the engine to find the truth there, because I agree with you. Something about that doesn't seem to add up. But yeah, you get third at this Evo, which is it's a really strong performance. Next weekend, pretty much right after, Gamers 8, third again. This time, Mena RD actually eliminated you from Evo that year in a super close set. But then you eliminate Mena in return, if I remember correctly, right? At Gamers 8. Did you think at that time, like, oh, great, I figured out Blanca? Or did you feel like you were lucky? Like, what were you thinking after that Gamers 8 set versus Mena?
I was just happy, honestly, because he put me in losers in that tournament. He sent me to the losers bracket, and then when we had to play again, I was like, dang, I'm not going to make no more money, bro. It's over for me. And I end up winning. That's like, I think the only time in my career that I actually like just popped off for winning. I do actually pop off. I don't know if the camera catch it, but I hurt my hand because I clapped so hard and I slapped the table so hard. I literally hurt my hand because I was so happy and hyped that I was able to beat Mena, because I think that was the first time I actually beat his Blanca in Street Fighter 6. Maybe he beat me like 3-4 times, and all those times are big important tournaments. So I'm really, really happy that I won that one.
I definitely can understand that too, because you're having a really successful year for the limited major events that we have, right? This season has the fewest amount of offline tournaments of any CPT season that's had any offline events. And the messed up part about it is you're competing out of World Warrior US East, right? So we have region lock qualifiers to Capcom Cup, and in US East, it's the classic Punk and IDOM. Now Knuckle Dude's back in the fray, full steam ahead. And then Mena RD moves to the East Coast. And then suddenly we have there's three Capcom Cup winners on the East Coast, plus the most winningest player from Street Fighter V history right there with you. And it's like, what the hell is going on in this region? And only 2 people can qualify out of it. So you're forced to go up against these world-class players over and over and over, and only 2 of you can possibly make it out from this region. Besides that, you have your qualification with the CPT online tournament. Are you feeling pressure to get into Capcom Cup heavy at this time? Because like you got so close, you had been doing so good throughout the season. Is there any like frustration with the format? Like, if this were a different format, I would have already been qualified. They put too many strong players in one region. Like, how are you feeling about this season leading up to that final one chance qualifier you have with the CPT online premiere?
Honestly, like I didn't like the format, like, but that's not something that is going to make me upset during the time, because I already know, like, I've had a whole year to prepare about the format. So for me, it's just trying to win and qualify if that's what I can do. But that didn't end up happening. It was not like, I feel like now, like this part of my career, like I'm okay with losing and, taking L's. It's okay. Before I was not. So now, like, I lost that, and, it's just good games. Like, the better players got me out of there that day, and, the guy that was supposed to win won. So now in my career, it's okay to lose, which is why I think in Street Fighter 6, I was actually able to do well a lot. I feel like I switched my mindset to actually being okay more with losing and, have to really be as angry all the time,
Well, that's good. That's good. I'm hoping that feels better for you personally, because you had been known a little bit up till this point for having emotional reactions to taking L's. Like, it's, if anyone who's competed, they can understand, unless you're a robot, like you understand that it hurts to lose. Like it's part of what the drama that makes it exciting for everyone involved too, because you're putting, like, there's stakes on the line, not just financial, not just time, but there's pride, ego. You're putting yourself out there to potentially be cut down, and it stings every single time. And you've always been a player who who didn't shy away from expressing that, right? Like, some people might type up the tweet then delete it, but like, sometimes you type it up and hit send, so you were known to show that. So it's good to hear that you're learning a bit more how to accept it, because it can just be personally painful. And I think it did show in your growth. But before that, there was one final chance in this season before we can see the culmination of all that. And that's, of course, the LCQ, right? So I brought up to the points about how consistent you were throughout the season, because it's just almost jarring to see how strong you were at this time and not be in Capcom Cup. But that was also happening like all over the world because of the way the format is structured. There's so many people who are so strong and not in Capcom Cup. Kakadu is like the other like prime example. Winning everything or almost winning everything, but just falling short in the Japan region. So going into this LCQ, it's, I would say, the most stacked LCQ we've ever had, if my memory serves me correctly. Once again, expectations, what are you thinking going into this? Are you, I'm okay with losing mode? Are you just going for fun? Or is it serious business? I really want to get into the Capcom Cup.
Of course, I wanted to get into Capcom Cup. I wouldn't go if I didn't want to. But for me, I really wasn't going to go to the Cup. FlyQuest kind of pushed for it. They didn't force me to go, but they kind of, sometimes if I see them at tournaments, or they'll send me a message and be like, "You're going to go? Are you going to the LCQ Capcom Cup?" And I'm like, "Damn, man, they want me to go." I know they do, so I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to put back on the competitor pants and compete one more time this year and try my best at getting in. So for me, it was just about trying to win and qualify for the Cup. But if I don't win, I just can go home and I get to stream Capcom Cup for 10 days. I'm happy.
Yeah, I think I remember you talking about that, and I understand personally, like the restream meta for Capcom Cup, it's pretty juicy. So I the content creator brain, I was sharing the same thoughts you were at that time. But I'm happy FlyQuest persuaded you or dropped the little hints to motivate you to go, because you end up having a legendary run here, and I think this run has a lot of significant moments in it because. You go up against Daigo and an amazing set, nail biter down to the wire. You end up going against Tokido, nail biter down to the wire. And Tokido has at this point been built up to be, in the eyes of many people, to be like this roadblock for you, right? And I'm not sure, have you beaten Tokido at this point in Street Fighter 6?
No, that was our first time playing. This was
Okay.
the very first match we ever played.
Okay. So was that a big match in your mind as well? Like, I feel like you and Tokido have established such a rivalry over the years, and like there's respect between both of you. So was that like it's going to be an important match, or what were you thinking about that match going into it?
I'm not gonna lie, he didn't really know how to play this game at all. But the times that I played him, for some reason, he just knows everything about Ken. He got all the combos, everything. It's so weird. So every time I play Tokido, I know it's never free and it's always the closest set ever. So anytime I see him in my path, and I know that he's going to make it to me. Anytime that our paths are somewhat connected, we always make it there for some reason. Always. And I know every time that if I don't come in fully focused, that it's gonna be a short day for me. So anytime I play Tokido, I know that it's one of the hardest things for some reason. It's one of the hardest people to beat and just get out of there.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up, because at this time, Tokido did have a great performance at Evo though as well, but a lot of people were looking at Tokido and the fundamentals and were there, right? But there was still like the lack of expertise or optimization for Street Fighter 6 specific things like the conversions, and maybe some awareness that people were like, oh, like other Kens had better combos or better conversions in certain, or better punishes in certain situations, where his were not as optimized, but his great neutral decision making was all there, kind of carrying him despite not having that for Street Fighter 6. So it's funny that like you run into Tokido there, and it's like he finally hit his peak there for that season. Like, oh, it's all coming together. Like I can finally remember my optimal combos and punishes now. And you managed to get that win. And then the next player you go up against, I feel like is in a similar position, because then winners finals is you versus Problem X, who Problem X was not doing good at all at first, right? For his level, right? All respect to him, right? For that caliber of player, he kind of had a really rough start. He was playing Lily, he's playing Marissa. He's like, what should I do? And then finally he's settling into the Blanca, and it's coming together for him really in this run right now. But in winners finals, it's a dominant 3-0. Like you win easy. And at this point, once again, it's like full steam ahead for you. It feels like this is Punk's tournament to lose right now. Problem X comes then through losers, and then in grand finals, it was kind of a wash, right? The first set was kind of fast, and I remember watching the set, and you know, this has happened. You've been in similar situations 2 other times, right? There's the Evo 2017 grand finals, the Capcom Cup grand finals, and I know the narrative around it and the pressure and the you can see it in the Twitch chat, you can see it in the tweets, right? It's the narrative again of and I know you're not a fan of that narrative because it discredits the players, of the choke incoming, right? This is the buzz that's being generated right now, and you can feel it. And as someone who doesn't root for someone to lose, I hate seeing that build, but you can see it building in the audience, right? And on top of it, you're hitting rematch very quick. It's like you're going to the match one after another. You're going to Luke, and the L's are racking up fast. Can you talk a little bit about like what you're thinking during that time as each loss is incoming and the rematches are getting faster and faster? What is going through your mind at this moment?
Well, during the match, like I just like could not guess right. Everything Problem X did was just correct. The first set we played, everything I did was correct. Like I baited all his wake up balls. I meted him at the correct times when he would try to do the jump ball. But during the grand finals, every EX up ball every EX up ball he did hit me. Every time I grabbed him, he jumped back. He would like do electricity. And anytime that I pressed the button, it was a perfect parry. And when I went for grab, he was pressing another button. I'm like, everything in this set is just one of those sets where you just bad luck. Like nothing is going your way, and the guy just has a great read on everything in the moment. And so I just felt like Problem X he just had a great read on, I don't know, maybe someone told him something. I don't know, maybe Endon Walker told him something on the side to help him out or something. But he came back in the grand finals and he just had some crazy reads and he was ready. I feel like in the winners finals, he just didn't seem like he was there. He didn't really get to play the game. Everything I did was just correct. And I felt like it maybe got me complacent that it was over, like I was going to win the tournament. And I feel like I knew all of the Blanca stuff already. Like I played Mena a million times already. In my head, this is the best Blanca player, and I shouldn't really lose to anyone else. So I'm already like very confident that the LCQ, if Problem X, I think he had to play JB in losers finals. If he beats JB, or if JB wins, like no matter who wins out of them two, I'm going to win. The only person during the LCQ that I did not want to play was Kakaru. And JB ended up double eliminating him. But outside of Kakaru, I felt like going into the LCQ, there was no other player that was going to beat me. And, you know, Problem X, he shut me up. He changed my mind.
Yeah, it did seem like, you know, Problem X loves going to the casino, and you could see it in the gameplay, like, and Blanca kind of really represents that the most, especially with the up back Blanca ball. Like, there's just an extra layer of guessing on top of everything that the universal mechanics, like that perfect parry reversal that everyone has. Blanca has another layer to that, and yeah, you could see that every interaction he was guessing correctly in. And after that set, I believe you mentioned this publicly. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm inventing this in my mind. You even talked about potentially seeing a sports psychologist or thinking about your mentality. Is that something that I'm remembering correctly? Like you actually consider like maybe there's something you could be doing in order to help prepare yourself for that kind of a moment?
Well, I didn't think about getting a sports psychiatrist at all, but that's when I kind of started switching my mindset towards the like it's okay to lose, and that's when I kind of came back this year with that like mindset that it's fine, and I feel like my results this year has been better than last year because of that. You know, I don't think I would ever see something like a psychiatrist because it's just not something I would want to do. I understand people who do because I think that's something a few players have been considering doing or have been doing recently. So it's definitely something that, but for me, I don't think that's a thing. I usually think when I lose, I know exactly why I lost, you know, and I know if I was nervous, if I wasn't nervous, like, you know, those things I know. Usually I don't lose because I'm nervous. I don't get too nervous in tournaments. Like sometimes I get extremely nervous, but usually when I play in tournaments, I don't really feel much nerves. I feel like I've been doing it now for a long time, that once it's fight, like all my nerves are usually before a match start. Before a match, I'm shaking. My mind is just thinking 100 things at once. And I'm just like, bro, I'm probably not going to beat this guy. I hate his character. all these things start creeping in my mind right before the set. But as soon as I sit down and I hit fight, like all that stuff goes away, and I don't really have any nerves usually when I play matches.
Okay. Yeah, I can see potentially how that growth has helped you, though. Like you mentioned, like accepting that losing might be an option, because going into the next year, you start off the season pretty strong because there's the Esports World Cup qualifiers coming up, and you have a few strong performances, but that culminates with a win at CEO 2024. And this is a win that's not just like, not to disrespect CEO 2023 and the past results and all that, but this was part of the Esports World Cup. So we saw like a kind of a resurgence of the actual offline tour that we had pre-COVID, where international players were showing up at every event, and like they were super stacked. Like the premieres you won back in the day, in case the listeners don't know, they had all the best players on the planet. Like there was a cabal of like 15 Japanese players and like 5 Korean players, and you know, maybe a handful of Chinese players and the best Europeans. They would go to every single tournament that you're at, and then you would just have to line them up and knock them down and beat them for every premiere you were at. So that was kind of missing from the post-COVID era. Esports World Cup revived that. So that CEO you win, it is stacked. Like this is an international affair. So was this once again like another like big confidence boost for you, or were you just like, yep, I got this, I know Street Fighter 6, like it's on lock now? Because that was your first major premier level win, I think, in this game, if I'm correct.
Yeah, definitely a confidence booster. I didn't really think I would win CEO. Like I always think I'm gonna do well at tournaments, and of course I think I have chances to win any tournament I attend. But I don't know. Like some tournaments you go into, you just don't really think you're gonna win. Maybe I do well. Like I expect to always do well, but not win. So going into CEO, I wasn't really sure how it would go. You know, they just nerfed Cammy too. I think like that's the first tournament, big tournament. with like all the nerfs and stuff. Well, not first one, but like, you know, still going into it. So, you know, right now I'm still learning Akuma at the time also. So I'm playing both the characters. And, you know, I get to the grand finals and I have to play Akuma. I wasn't really expecting to play Akuma yet in tournaments, but I felt like he beat my Cammy pretty bad. And for some reason, at that time, Chinese players like him, Xiao Hai, VX Bao, like I feel like they just all were very good versus Cammy. I don't know what it was, if they have like a Cammy player over there that was very good, but they all were very good at the matchup. So I knew that I had to try something else if I was going to beat him. And Akuma kind of destroyed JP anyway, and I kind of knew that at the time, but I didn't really feel ready to play Akuma in a big tournament.
Right.
But, you know, it ended up working out, thankfully, and I end up being able to get the CEO belt because honestly, that's one of the best trophies I've been wanting for years now. I feel like the belt is one of the coolest trophies, especially from a person who loves WWE. You know, I really appreciate a belt trophy, so I was very happy to be able to get that.
Oh, that's interesting. You mentioned that because I forgot, because CEO like 2017, that era, that was one of the premieres you got second at, right? Like you had won so many, so you actually hadn't had a CEO first place up until that point. Is that correct?
I've gotten second twice, I believe.
Yeah, you lost to Mono as well in 2021. Okay, I didn't piece that together. Right. Okay. So this victory means a lot more so than just, you know, getting into form in Street Fighter 6. It's also finally the belt, which is definitely one of the coolest trophies in all of the FGC. Well, that's great, because that also is like CEO is also the precursor event to Evo. I feel like a lot of people always look at CEO, like who does good at CEO when it's in the full fledged like international mode as kind of a precursor to what's going to happen at Evo. So going into Evo 2024 then, at this point, I don't think there was actually a favorite to win, because looking back at Evo 2023, people knew that Angry Bird and Mena were like above the rest. I think there was a clear expectation like, hey, these are the two favorite players to look out for. Evo 2024, it's still Mena. Mena is still like in that sort of top of his game sort of era. He just came off the Evo Japan win, Red Bull Kumite and all that. So people are looking at players like him. People are wondering what Angry Bird's going to be up to because he's been on a hiatus. But it wasn't really clear cut at this time what's going to happen. You go into this tournament. Are you expecting certain players or yourself to go far? Is there like a vision for how this event's going to go? Or is it just, it's another Evo, I can lose, time to get to work? What were you thinking?
Actually, going into this year, I felt very good. I felt really confident that I was going to do well. Wasn't quite sure if I'd win or not. But I knew for sure this year that I had a really good chance. And a lot of it due to, like, when in this game, the Japanese players, like tournaments that have a lot of Japanese players in, I feel very confident because I feel like they don't play me a lot. And every time I play them, they look very lost in this game because their Cammy players play nothing like me there. And in Japan, a big part of their, like, how they structure, how they play is really depends on who they're fighting and how they beat that person. And how they are playing the characters over in Japan. So if you play a character a different way than they're really prepared for, it's really easy to beat them. So the fact that they have a lot of Cammy players, but none of them play like me, I feel like gives me a good advantage of tournaments that they in. So at tournament like Evo, you know, when you get farther in the bracket, when it starts to get hard, most of your matches are probably going to be Japanese players, unless you run into like a fellow countryman that got far also, or maybe a European or something like that. But most of 9 times out of 10, you're playing a Japanese player. If you're not from Japan, you're going to be fighting them deep in the bracket because so many of them come to Evo and they're all world-class players that's going to go far in the bracket. So for me, like, anytime there's a big tournament with a lot of Japanese players, I get very confident that I have a very good chance against them because of that. And my run was very good for me. I didn't have like Mena, but at this point, Mena doesn't really exist to me because I already beat him and he doesn't want to play me at this point. I believe he doesn't have a character for Cammy, so him, it's okay. Like, I don't need to worry about him. It's really just Angry Bird now. me just hoping that Angry Bird don't make it there. This is the only player that if I avoid this year, I felt like I'm going to win. And it's kind of was the same as last year. If I felt like I could have avoided Angry Bird or Meta, then I probably could have won Evo again. But this year, Angry Bird still got very far, but he ended up falling a little short in the ninth, maybe.
I think he got 8th, but it was the Saturday top 8, right? So Nemo ended up eliminating him, I believe, to get top 6.
Yep.
So he got 8th off, not on the main stage, which sucks, but
yeah. So when he got eliminated, I was like, okay, if I play good tomorrow, I'm winning this tournament. Like, it's no way I lose this one. And I end up winning it. But it was not as easy as I thought it was going to be.
No, I mean, I don't think this is the build up I was trying to establish here, right? Because you get to this top 6 position, even to get there, I'm getting flashbacks to 2017 because you beat Tokido to get into top 8 winners, right? I'm like, wow, things are things coming full circle here? Like I saw that, and that was a big win. You made me a little bit nervous with the pop off during the combo. Like I think you started to pop it off while the level 3 was going on, if I remember correctly. It didn't quite KO yet, even though it was like 100% he was dead. Yeah, he celebrated a little too soon. I was like, oh no, please. Please
I didn't celebrate though. I think I took the headphones off. I think I just took the headphones off because it was the 100%. Once the level 3 came out, it was going.
I don't know, man. There could have been a glitch and he fell out. Listen, you got hit with that with Noah later on in the season. I was a little nervous, but yeah, you got a big win over Tokido there to get into top 6 winners. And then that bracket path, I think everyone looked at that and like you were one of the favorites at this point. And it still wasn't guaranteed. You had players like Big Bird in there, Momochi. I think those were like the 2 major ones people were looking at. So your first match, I believe, was Momochi. He's revolutionizing Ed gameplay at this time, the dream combos, all this. There's a lot of like momentum behind Momochi at this time. That match first up, were you concerned about the Ed gameplay? Because I know Ed's super strong. I know even some NA players, Shine here and there, has gotten a win over you on some of the online tournaments with Ed. Are you concerned about that matchup at this point?
No, not at all. I'm not playing Momochi. I never get concerned. During Street Fighter 5, he was one of the people I beat the most. Like,
okay,
he's never really got a win on. He's beat me like one time. I beat him maybe like 10, 12 times, and with multiple characters. Like, I just feel like it's a playstyle thing. Like me and him play very similar, but I'm a lot better at doing it than he is, so people who like that, who share same playstyle at me, I feel like there's no one in the world that can outplay me in my playstyle. Everyone who tries to do that, they all lose really badly. Also, I studied him so much as a kid because, he was the Ken player back then when I was playing Ken in Street Fighter 4. He was the Ken. He was the greatest Ken ever, and, I studied the way he played and I mimicked his play style so much over the years, and then eventually I feel like I just kind of passed him in it and became better.
Wow.
I feel like all players that I look up to and I've studied a lot throughout the years are people that I tend to have an easier time playing against.
Wow. It's like they've planted the seeds for their own destruction later on, right? It's like, the young player they inspired has grown up to take them down. Wow, yeah, I didn't know about your record versus Momochi, but that makes sense looking about it in hindsight. It does seem like the players who do have an edge on you occasionally, which is never permanent. It's the offensive-minded players. It's the ones that take the calculated risk, right? Like the Meta RD, the Angry Bird, and to an extent, well, leading up to this, it wasn't very good, but Big Bird has a hint of that. But yes, historically, Big Bird has been kind of a free win for you, if I remember the record correctly, right? Like, I don't know if he's ever had a tournament win over you prior to this moment.
No, I've always been, but we've not played in many tournaments. I think we played in one Street Fighter 6 tournament, that was the EWC, and then maybe we played like 2 Street Fighter 5 tournaments. But yeah, usually I always beat him. Even when we play like casual sets, I usually have the edge over him. Characters like Rashid, I just learned to match up really well. Playing him all the time, playing JB.
So that means that going into this set, you felt prepared. I'm assuming you have the tournament record win over Big Bird, you have the matchup experience, and it showed, right? This winners finals 3-0. Easy. I mean, there were some moments where there was some back and forth, some rounds, and not every game was guaranteed, but still, it was a close 3-0.
Double rush, easy confirm. Punk is back in Evo Grand Finals.
You're now back in Grand Finals winner's side, and the other opponents are potentially like Ending Walker or Big Bird, and I'm assuming you're feeling confident against either of them, right? That's my assumption for either of them. Right?
Yeah, Ending Walker was weird. Like, I really didn't want to play him in the winner's side. But if we had grand finals and I could lose a set, I felt really confident playing Ending Walker. But in one set, he has a very weird play style. Like, I don't want to just play 1 versus 3 against him. It's not very comfortable. He does a lot of weird parries, just a lot of unethical things and on top of him, he got really crazy reactions.
Yeah.
So, like, he's doing weird stuff to you, but he's checking every weird thing or crazy thing you do to him. So, those type of players, I really hate playing them. You know, they got the crazy reactions, but they don't play in the most fundamentally sound way.
Right.
I hate playing those people. It's a mystery. Like, why is your reaction so good, but you decide to play this way? It's very hard play style, I think, to deal with, at least for me personally.
And finds the counter hit. A second shot for Big Bird here as he sends himself to his second Evolution Grand Finals against Punk.
Well, you didn't have to worry about that because Big Bird ends up taking out Ending Walker there. And so you're going into Grand Finals now. And, you know, it's poetic in a way for multiple reasons because you had been in this position before. 2017, you took out Tokido and winner side of top 16 to make it top 8 winners. This time, someone else did the hard work of eliminating him, right? Which is what you're hoping for back in 2017. Big Bird, on the other hand, had also been in Grand Finals of EVO in 2019. Both of you ended up getting second place. So it's 2 runner-ups meeting in Grand Finals where both of you know that one of you will have to be a 2-time loser and one will be a first-time EVO champion. And you're good friends. Is this something you guys discussed, understood? What was the discussion like between you two and the air like in the room, like getting into that moment to sit down to play Grand Finals?
Honestly, it was a very cool feeling. Like, for me at least, I really loved that me and Big Bird could be in the Grand Finals together. You know, no matter who won, I really just felt like it's a cool moment to be able to share that with someone like Big Bird. You know, he's probably one of my closest friends that's like not American, I would say. He's probably the closest, honestly. So to be able to like share that with him and like, you know, just to know like kind of like his story and like be with him for so long, seeing him get second place at Evo, and you know, I was there with him, or like I've seen him after like that, and you know, I've talked with him. And being a person who also got second, you know, and being able to make jokes with each other that about both being second placers, and then being in Grand Finals, just very cool to be there with Big Bird. Honestly, you know, I wouldn't want it to be another player. If I could pick someone, it probably would be someone like Big Bird that I would want to play in the Grand Finals of Evo, win or lose. You know, I'm happy no matter what the outcome is, and you know, I'm just happy that we were able to both make it there. You know, throughout the whole tournament, me and Big Bird literally, I feel like, helped each other and cheered for each other, you know, kept telling each other, like, you better not lose this next match, you know. Yeah, so the whole time that Evo was going on, you know, he qualified for top 8, and then it was my turn, and he's like, yeah, you better not choke, bum. And I'm like, I hope I don't, bro. Like, so, you know, the whole time we're just cheering for each other, just pushing each other to go further. And I feel like he's a person that, you know, I always, like, him and Angry Bird, I go to a lot for advice, you know, not just in Street Fighter, but just in things in life in general. You know, those guys give me great advice no matter what it is. And they're just very, like, honest and just loving people if you really get to know them. And, you know, they really take a liking to you. They're some of the best people you could ever meet. So, you know, just being able to have that moment with Big Bird after so many years of friendship was crazy to me.
You know, you could feel the reverence in the room at that time. Like, you could tell how big the moment would be no matter what happened, right? It was a grand finals where no matter which way it went, it would be like a legendary moment. And on top of that, of course, like the USA bias is there. There's a lot of factors going into play. Like no USA players won a mainline Evo in so long. So many things are coming together at this moment. Then the first set happens. And kind of like the winners finals, it was a close 3-0. But this time in the other direction, right? Like there was all these moments where it came down to like a final decision making process, and both of you are using like the instant air dive kicks or the instant air Arabian cyclone. Like the guess is the Yomi is very high at this point, right? Like you guys are really reading each other. But Big Bird is getting the advantage in this first set. You can feel kind of like the air getting sucked out of the room with all the other American players, and we're obviously rooting for you. Big Bird's great, but we're rooting for USA here. And then it's one L, it's another, then it's a third, and you can't help but hear the buzz of like, oh no, is this like 2017 again? Is this like 2019 Capcom Cup? Is this like the LCQ in 2023? Right? There's a bit of a concern brewing amongst the crowd about Punk getting so close again to winning like the titles that we know he's always had the skill and the talent and the drive to get, but it's just fallen a little bit short of before, right?
3-0 right back at you for Big Bird to send us to the final set of Evolution.
When that reset occurs, are you thinking about any of this? Are you going to a place that you've been in the past, or are you recognizing the situation and able to move forward? Like what's going on through your mind there?
When he go up 2 games, to me, I was just thinking after he went up 2, I was just like, if I don't win this next round, like the first round of the game, I just hope he reset it quick. Because I'm catching on to what he's doing. Like he changed the way he completely played the first set in winners finals to how he played grand final. He started doing a lot of different things on defense, and the way, just honestly, the way he played defense was a lot different in the second set. He did a lot of, like the first set, he wasn't really doing the EX air jump, but he did a lot of them in grand finals. Mm-hmm. And he also started doing something I've never seen anyone do that I think is one of the smartest things I've seen, which is he would block 2 or 3 jabs, and he would just completely take his turn. Since he know I'm minus, he would just walk up and start trying to frame trap me. At that point, I feel like people to that point, they just like, you do 3 jabs and then they'll take their turn immediately with a button. But he actually like walked up to get his turn closer and, make me start guessing. And, I caught on a bit late in the first set, and he caught me a lot with those. And then the second set, I was like, okay, I'm understanding more and more what he's changed up. And he also stopped whiffing a lot. The first set, he whiffed a lot of buttons, but I think Angry Bird calls him. I don't know if the camera has it, but he's on the phone before we start playing the grand finals. Angry Bird calls him out there. He told him to just stop whiffing. From right now, that's what Big Bird told me, that he told him to just stop whiffing buttons, which is funny to me because I'm like, why are you going into the set thinking you can whiff on me? Of all people, I would think Big Bird knows that he can't do that. So it's funny that he has to be reminded from Angry Bird to actually not do it. And the second set, he honestly, I feel like I could count on fingers how many buttons he whiffed. It was so little. So like he definitely just changed up his style completely. But I still felt confident. Like when he reset it, I felt very confident that I knew what he was doing and what I had to change to try to win the set. I didn't know if I would be able to, of course, but I knew that I definitely had at least knowledge of what he changed up. And if he didn't change up again or switch up, then I could finally take the set.
Yeah, the switch up definitely showed, right? Like it showed that there was a download occurring, but it's still extremely close. You guys are going back and forth. There's crazy comebacks on both sides. There's like the jump back super that you do. Like there's like nuts moments happening. And while this is going on, occasionally you guys are actually like looking at each other and laughing and playing through it, showing some levity and with the intensity of the situation, right? Which was really interesting to see. But then it whittles all the way down to the final game, and not just the final game, but final game, final round. Were you like, wow, of course it came down to the final game, final round? Were you thinking like it had to be this way? Like what were you thinking when you got to the final round?
I knew it. Like I always tell myself in moments like that for some reason, it's impossible to close it out with a 2-round victory. Like, no matter who you is, no one ever closed out sets like that with 2-round. I swear I've never seen it in Street Fighter. It's always, when it's a set that's that close, it always goes to the exact last round. So I knew for sure that we were probably going to go to the last round. Like, it's just something weird, like, in Street Fighter, that maybe it's our subconscious. Maybe it just let go and it just let them get to that last round or something. I don't know, but it always goes there. So I knew I was prepared to go to the last round, and I knew that whoever started it off good was probably going to win, but that actually didn't end up happening because Big Bird started that last round off on fire, and it somehow turned around.
Well, I mean, somehow we know it's like the jump-in hurt all around the world, right? It seemed like up till that point, you guys were playing perfect Street Fighter in the sense that the jump-ins anti-aired, the whiffs punished, right? Like the fundamentals were all checked at every moment. You had to really earn your openings or guess correctly with a hard read on the throw Oki situations. But after he got that start, you managed to reset to neutral and then just a jump in.
Oh no, anti-air! That could be an Evo losing anti-air. Just like that, Punk.
One more hit
will do it. Oh, gets hit low, and there it is.
Right, suddenly at the very end, it was such a human moment to have happen, where both of you kind of looked like machines leading up to that. And then it was just a raw jump heavy punch with Cammy, clonked him on the head, not even a mixer attempted, and then the momentum. So what was your thought process going for that jump, knowing the risk that it was? And then when it actually connected, what were you thinking? Were you surprised? Were you like, oh crap, it actually worked, time to get to work? Like, what happened there?
Well, it's funny enough, like, the time that I actually thought I had a chance was not even a jump in, is when he got an accidental back throw. He was supposed to forward throw when he had the tornado out, but he accidentally back threw me. And that's when I knew that, like, I was like, okay, it's not over. If he didn't back throw me, if he would just forward throw me, I think I was done. Like, I checked out already. Like, I was already checking out during the set. I was like, well, he got the throw and it's over. He activated the level 2. It hit me. I was like, well, it's probably going to be the end of my run. But then he back threw me, and that's when I was like, okay, it's not over yet. I got full space to work with. I got 3 bars. This game is easy to make a comeback, and I just need the 1 knockdown. And then I just jumped. Like, I don't know why I jumped, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie. I watched like thing the day before. I randomly saw a video like of Evo winner, or it was Rewind. When he won Evo, and they were recapping it, like, and he was giving his thoughts about how he won Evo. Pretty much like they recapped his Evo win, and he just was like, "I really won Evo with a jump in." And I watched that the day before. He said that, and I was like, "Damn!" I started down. I was like, "Bruh," he said he won Evo with a jump in. Maybe I could try to do a jump in and it might work out. I didn't really know why I jumped at that moment. It was just like, I'm just thinking like, there's nothing else I can do. Like, let me try something here and get something started. As long as I can get something started, I can win.
Because at the angle I was going to jump at, it was ambiguous. So he didn't know what side it was going to hit on. I didn't know what side it was going to hit on. But it doesn't matter because I'm just going to hit confirm it to something where it doesn't matter if I know what side it is. I didn't think he was going to get hit. So when he got hit, I was like, oh, wow, this dude just really lost Evo. And I just really won Evo off a jump in. When
the jump hit, I really knew everything that was going to happen in the match because everything went exactly like I won off of that one sequence. And that was the game. I knew Big Bird was going to hold up because as a top player in a moment like that, 100% of the time, you were always supposed to go for the grab. But right. I knew that Big Bird was not going to go for the grab, knowing that in that specific moment, because it's Evo, it's the biggest tournament, you're going to make a different decision, you know, and that's like with the Moke thing taught me that I talked about earlier, that in these big tournaments, people will make a big decision. Back then, I would have always threw Big Bird 100 out of 100 times because you're supposed to take it. But now I realized that it wasn't going to be that way. Big Bird wanted to get out that corner, and he didn't want to take it. And then I got the meaty after. And then I think the next combo after that was like a crouch medium kick that killed him. And it worked out literally once I landed a jump in. Everything worked out how I envisioned it in my head completely.
Wow. The spirit of rewind came to you from above and said, I really want Evo off a jump in. And then the vision was laid out before you. Wow. Yeah, it was just a miracle to see that. Yeah, you reminded me about the level 2, how like it seemed like such a checkmate situation. Final game, final round with Rashid, with level 2, and it was all working out. And that back throw gave you the opening to lay this plan out and execute it. So it was unexpected in that last moment because Big Bird had such an advantage. And after the KO occurred, I think you ended it in a level 3 combo. You know, Big Bird's there. You're taking a moment. There's no pop off right away, right? Like you're not jumping out of your seat. We've seen dramatic pop offs that same Evo. There was no immediate release of emotion. There was like a stillness in the air, I would say. And the first thing you do is, you know, you're reacting a little bit, you're emotional, but you look to Big Bird first and you wait for his acknowledgement to, you know, to show him some respect as well. And because you understand, it seems like how emotional that moment is. So what was that like?
At first, and I've been through it, and so I know how Big Bird felt. Like I know how he felt the first time he lost Evo. You know, I know that, and you know, I'm sure he felt the same way. He know how I felt. I feel like if that was reversed, he'd probably do the same exact thing, because you know we know how serious we take our losses and how much it means to us to win something like Evo. So you know, when I see him with his hands in his hair, I think it was, you know, I'm just like waiting. You know, I just want him to know that it's okay. Like he's going to come back and probably win one of these too. So to me, I just want to like give him the acknowledgement, and you know, we're friends. So I just want him to know that like it's okay. Like, you know, one of us had to win, and you know, one of us is going to be probably sad no matter what. But I just want him to know that it's okay, and that you know, it's okay that I don't know. Honestly, it's just a moment. It's just a very weird moment with your friend that in the moment you want them to feel like I don't know how to say it, but you just want them to feel that you know you're there for them in that moment, even though you're the one who won. I want Big Bird to know that I'm still there for him and that it's okay, you know. So that's like the whole thing for me. Before even acknowledging that I won Evo, I wanted him to just have a moment for himself, you know.
Right.
And I didn't want to have all the attention on me, but because he played amazing throughout the whole tournament and he took me to the wire. So, you know, any of us could have won the Evo. I just got lucky to make the game-winning decisions. But honestly, that type of set is literally just anyone can win. It's not maybe I won, but you don't really feel like a 100% a real winner because it's just so close. It's anything can happen. I think in a Street Fighter match that close, anyone could have won.
Yeah. The respect between you two was it was very visible, right? And even on the side of Big Bird, he took his moment to gather himself, and then you know you guys embraced, and he basically said it's okay, like have your moment. You know, I think there was a really respectful acknowledgement from both parties there, and then that's when you know the waterworks start. Like you tear up, the crowd's cheering, and it felt like the closing of a chapter, right? Because like I mentioned before, you had come so close in the very beginning of your career, first Evo, all the way down to the wire again to grand finals, and in so many other moments to these big Grand Slam titles, and then finally 7 years later, you know, through all the people saying, oh, Punk, he's so good, but he chokes, all the narratives people were pushing, the comments, the antagonizing that people were doing for so long, like it's gone. Like there's nothing else people can say.
He finally did it. You can say anything you want about this kid. He is an Evo champion, and you can never take that away from him.
You're in that moment. Is this something that you're realizing? Are you feeling it in that moment? Like what's going on when you stand up and see the crowd and realize that you just won Evo?
Honestly, I'm just so happy. Like the amount of joy is like something, you know, I hope everyone can feel once in their life, because it's a crazy feeling, honestly. Like you accomplish something in your life, like you're probably like your ultimate goal. Like maybe that's my ultimate goal, like at least in a career standpoint for me, is probably my ultimate goal to win Evo, and like being able to actually do it after coming close so many times and attending so many of them, doing bad at so many, you know, is a crazy feeling to finally actually get up there and actually win and hold the trophy up. And the fact that so many people chanting "you deserve it" is crazy, because like, again, loving WWE, that's like a WWE thing. When someone finally get the title after so long for their first time, the crowd usually chant "you deserve it." So like the fact that people did that, and I come from loving wrestling, like all of that stuff was very big for me. So it was just a very crazy moment.
No, it was a beautiful moment. Not only was that just like the culmination of so many storylines for yourself, it was like America had a representative who won Evo. It was just like so many things coming together in that one moment. And in my view, it's like nothing can stop you now. You know, like I feel like that was such a talking point that people would use to discredit your talent as a fighting game player, which was just stupid. like you were objectively the most winningest player in Street Fighter V history and had so many titles, but there was like the one that eluded you was the Evo. Now that you have it, and you know you were the first qualifier for Capcom Cup early in the season, what are your sights on next?
Honestly, I do want to win Capcom Cup. I want to become a millionaire. But even before I honestly really want to win Street Fighter League this year. I've never really do good at Street Fighter League. I won the very first one where it was just Americans. Like, you know, I don't really count that. It's not the same type of thing as it is now. I've never really done well in these ones, and it's something big for me because I like to team up with my friends, you know. So for me, being able to give them a win, you know, being able to help them put their name on the map, give them some money too on top of it, like all of that stuff is very big for me, you know. And also, like, I honestly love being on FlyQuest these past 2 years. I've been on them, and like being able to give them a win, you know, especially with such a crazy year that they had, if they could just top it off with just me winning SFL for them, it would be insane. So for me, SFL is my focus. Also, there was something Mena said at the start of SFL that really stuck with me that I just didn't want to lose after he said it. I think at like our pre-interviews we had before we, like at home when we did the interviews with Rob, I think he said something like, this year is going to be a win for DR, not America, or something like that. And to me, I ain't like that. So I thought like, nah, America, we're going to win this. Like the American pride in me took over a little bit. Usually I don't really get that, honestly, the American pride. I only really play for myself and I don't really care about the like that. But when he said that, I was like, nah, bro, we going to keep this in America. Like we not going to do that. We're not going to say this is going to be for the DR. Nah, we're going to do this and it's going to stay in America. So like those two things make me really locked in and want to win Street Fighter League this year. And more so than Capcom Cup, I do want to win Capcom Cup because $1 million is $1 million.
Yes,
but
good reason.
For me, my goal is really focused on winning Street Fighter League. You know, it's more important for me. Like it means more. It's more significant in my life, I think, for me to win it personally than Capcom Cup is. So I think I'm focused the most on that right now.
Right. No, that's awesome. I've always respected your drive to help support your friends and the scene and career, but it's also awesome to hear you having some pride in being, you know, representing USA. Because for a long time, there was actually a few moments where you had opportunities to potentially represent USA, and you're like, you kind of turned it down because, you know, you're more focused on playing for yourself. But, you know, I don't want to have your wins be claimed by other people, but you know, we're proud of you, right? I think it's something, I think it comes from a positive place. It doesn't come from a place of trying to claim your own effort and wins as our work. It's just, you know, in a way we have a connection, no matter how distant, by being fellow countrymen, especially in an international scene. So I'm happy to hear that you're trying to keep it in USA, because Street Fighter League USA has been dominated by, you know, Asia and everything else. And it would be cool to see USA won by an all-American team. And you're doing good so far, right? You were the MVP for FlyQuest, and I think you guys were the number one team, right, leaving the regular season.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Well,
right.
I think we are.
We are? Because you have the playoffs coming up this month, correct?
Yeah, 2 weeks, I believe.
Okay. Well, I'll be looking out for that. So best of luck in that. I'm hoping to see USA take it all the way, take it through Worlds. Is there anything else you want to end this discussion on? This was a great talk, by the way. I really want to say thank you again for coming on. Anything you want to share with the people? Any final words you want to put out there?
Just thank everybody for standing with me over all these years. You know, I'm not the most likable person all the time, and I know that. But, you know, I appreciate all the people who actually do root for me all these years. And, you know, they watch the content and they support me, you know, and every time I go to tournaments, you know, they cheering for me all the time. I really appreciate that. Also, my family for supporting me through all these years and, you know, always making sure that I'm never too down on myself. And always got a good mindset. And also my girlfriend, she helps me a lot with a lot of stuff, you know. So, you know, I need to take time to thank everyone who do be helping me a lot. And, you know, I just want to just say thank you to all those people. And, you know, I hope that we can close this, or I guess close this year, or close the season, I would say. Close this season out with some big wins, and we can make history and become the first Street Fighter League CEO, Capcom Cup, and Evo Champion in 1 year. We could make that happen, but it's two more events I gotta win. But if we can do that, then I think I'll make history, and I think it will never be topped again. I don't know if that will ever happen again. And sadly, I couldn't win EWC this year because that could have been like the big five right now. But you know, even if I won EWC this year, I wouldn't count it because it's not the same season, so it wouldn't be the same thing.
Got it. Well, I'll be looking forward to all your continued success, Punk. Thanks again.
Thank you.